Hello and welcome to the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast. We are on the road at Conpulsion 2018 in Edinburgh. I'm your host Ben Porter and I am joined today by Richard Denning.
Hello.
Richard, you actually wear quite a few hats within this industry, don't you? So do you want to briefly tell us what it is you're doing here today?
Yep.
And then we can talk about your other hats.
Well, I suppose my main role here today is I'm at Medusa Games, which is a small indie publisher. So we published The Great Fire of London was our first game in 2010. A couple of years ago we did Tinker Tailor and then 9 Worlds. Did an expansion to that, and the latest game we're working on, which we're demoing here today, is Magnificent Fly Machines, which is a prototype which we hope to have out in the autumn. So that's me as an indie publisher. I'm also an author, so I'm a self-published author of mainly historical fiction, also historical fantasy and science fiction. So I've been doing that since about when the Kindle first came to the UK in about 2010, I think.
Okay, so
I've been writing much longer than that. I've been writing for 15, 20 years, but I've got. I think we're on to book 11 or book 12 at the moment of various different series, historical fiction and fantasy, and they're sort of particularly the historical fiction ones are pretty well received within their genre for a self-published author like myself. So I'm sort of fairly pleased with the way they're going. And I suppose the day job is I'm the director of the UK Games Expo, which obviously is the annual event, biggest hobby games convention in the UK, which is only 7 weeks away now.
So some would say the big one for the UK as far as
yes.
goes.
I think it's certainly the largest weekend hobby games convention. Salute is obviously a big one for war games, but I think we now have the largest in total number of attendance of any hobby games, war games, tabletop gaming, role playing in the UK, and depending on how you count it, it's potentially third largest in the world. The largest, of course, the two biggies are Essenspiel in Germany and Gen Con Indy, which are just monsters of in size. But last year we sort of briefly passed the attendance of Origins, which is was probably third largest in the world. I think we're sort of neck and neck with them, and expectation this year is we'll probably pass their numbers again. They'll then catch up with us because they always follow us about 3 weeks later. We'll wait and see. We don't really mind that, to be honest. It's never for the industry to be growing is good, so it doesn't matter, to be honest. But it's good that the shows are out there and are getting bigger. So there are a few of us around the world that are maybe not quite strictly hobby games conventions. So you've got the Comic-Con type events, which happen to have gaming. So UK Games and Comics is mainly a comic thing that has a lot of games. That's certainly that's a big one.
Yeah, I suppose you've got things like Adepticon, which I think that was like a tournament, and then the wider convention.
Yes.
Throughout that. Yeah.
And then we've got things like PAX, which there are board games, and PAX Unplugged. And there's Cannes Festival in France, which is sort of toys. It's sort of toy fair, which is also games as well. So there's quite a few around the world, but I think we would put ourselves into the same area as sort of the Gen Con Indie style of show. Really. Sort of a hobby games convention with things going on for multiple days across all genres of tabletop gaming, unplugged gaming, really, non-electronic gaming. And I think that's where we would put ourselves, our focused event, rather than maybe a wider comic-based event. Or although we do have people selling comics, we have people doing cosplay at the expo. It's sort of that is our focus, the tabletop gaming. We sort of have a bit of a tagline of everything about games, which is really what we always aim at. That is it mainly about games, and then
that's the focus of UK Games Expo. So one of the things we recently had Mark Cook of Aircon on the show,
yes, indeed.
which has grown massively.
Yes,
in
really
the time that it's been there. It's still, I guess, as conventions go, sort of modest in size. But have you noticed with the likes of UK Games Expo that there's been quite an increase in attendance to these things in recent years?
Oh yes, I mean when we started it, we went to Eschenspiel in 2006, and at that point there were a number of small conventions around, which mainly were open gaming type events, really. So Manicon, Midcon, Daycon, and which were great at what they did. You basically went along with your games and you play games all weekend. But they didn't have much in the way of publisher, trader, exhibitor presence, and certainly not much of the other stuff that tends to go on at a big convention. So cosplays, but also seminars and all the workshops and things that we do, entertainment events and so on. And they were the ones that were around at the time, and they still are. They're still running. But I think what's happened at the time that we launched it, there was Gen Con UK, which doesn't run anymore, but that was mostly a role-playing orientated event, and not really a sort of public event. Although the public could go to it,
was that directly an arm of the American?
Yeah, there was a time when Gen Con licensed out essentially. That was franchise, I suppose the word, franchised out the brand. Yeah. So there was this Gen Con SoCal, which is briefly an event that happened in California. There was one in France, in Paris. There was one in Australia, I think, and the UK. Oh, right, the UK one did run for quite a lot of years.
Okay.
And it was heavily role-playing, quite a lot of CCGs, some board gaming, but not much.
Yeah.
And very much about going along and playing role-playing games, most of the weekend. I'm not much really, you would say, orientated towards the general public, the mainstream, and trying to make the whole thing accessible and mainstream. So that was the atmosphere, the sort of environment, as it were, that we came into. So lots of little open gaming shows, Gen Con Indie, lots of wargame shows all over the place. The UK also has lots of big wargame shows like Salute, Triples, which was in Sheffield for many years. So you're well catered for if you wanted to go and play war games and wanted to get your war game stuff. You certainly there was a certain amount of it going on for role playing. Board games you certainly could if you wanted to play it, but there wasn't really the environment for publishers to come to show their games, for publish and for play testing to be going on, and for or not at a very large extent really, certainly. So we looked at all of that, then we went to Gen Con. So went to Eschenspiel, basically went, wow, this is enormous. But then we thought, okay, let's look at this, and this is a huge event. Of course, Essen has been around for 35 years, is it now? So we want something that does some of that in the UK. So we went and spoke to all of the pretty much any publisher. We went around all the British companies and exhibitors that were at Essen. All our sales were on every convention we could get to, all genres. We spoke to as many people as we could, and we managed to effectively get 30 or 40 exhibitors that first year, 2007, along the old Clarendon suites that we used to use, and 800 people. So it was a pretty good first year.
Yeah.
And the concept of an event where you go to, where there are publishers that are showing their games and demonstrating their games, where you can have a go at prototypes as well as their games on sale, and where you can buy the stuff as well if you want to, but also tournaments happening alongside.
Organised play.
And that's one thing Essen doesn't do an awful lot of. There's Carcassonne tournament.
More of a trade show.
It's very much a trade show. It's absolutely by far the place to go to if you want to release a new game. If you've got a board game, that's either there or Gen Con is probably your best thing. Definitely Essen is the place. It should be on every publisher's list of places to get to if you're trying to sell board games. However, we wanted to have something like that going on in the UK, and hopefully over the years attract potentially new releases and new stuff at our event. So that's where we started from, and it was really pretty reasonable success to begin with. But it was always a relatively core of the market. So in other words, it would be your board game enthusiast that would come. for the weekend.
The die-hard fans.
Yeah, the die-hard fans. And we always, from the very start, tried to make it something that would appeal to the families. So we went and did an event in the local library in Birmingham, taking our games along and had Star Wars stormtroopers dressed up and this sort of thing. We went to the Tolkien weekend, which is an annual event. It used to happen in May in Birmingham, it's now September, and lots of families at that. And so they said, hey, look, all these games you can come and play. And that always meant, and from the very first year we had a family zone. For 2 or 3 years it was run just by ourselves, but we're very lucky nowadays to have Imagination Gaming, who specialists at doing family gaming events. They go to schools, they hold games or events all over the country, and they run our family zone, which is sponsored by Haber this year. And actually that's, I'll come on to that, but so we wanted to make the family side of things part of it as well. And right from the start we did that, but gradually as the years have gone by, we've got to the point of realising that we've finally moved on from an event which is predominantly for the enthusiast, to an event which hopefully appeals to the mainstream, which families can come to and have a great day during the weekend. And so that's where the cosplay comes in, the face painting, the family zone, the children's role-playing games, the treasure hunts, scavenger hunt in the Viking camp, and all the rest of it that we do, the Vikings themselves. So all of that is there to try and make it something which the man in the street coming to isn't just thinking, what are all these wooden pieces and bits of card? But but hey, that looks cool, that's fun. And then, okay, this Ticket to Ride is quite good fun, but is there anything else? Then at that point, once you've got them playing this stuff, then you can introduce Agricola a bit further down the line, maybe, or Terraforming Mars or something. So I think that's that's how it has developed over the years. I think we were lucky that we hit it at a point that there wasn't. We had a dream and a vision for it, that we wanted to make this show. Yeah. We had enthusiastic publishers who, right from the very first year, came along and supported us. Some of which are still with us, Ragnar Brothers and Surprise Stare. There's a number of others. Some of the retailers that came from the first year as well, but particularly the publishers, because that was the new thing that we were trying to bring in that wasn't really being done before in the UK. And selling that as an idea that the publishers could get enough people wanting to see their games at an event in the UK. They also used to go to Germany, so everyone, if you were a UK publisher, the only place you could think about going to was Essen in Germany. I think, well, that's a bit crazy. Why can't there be something here? And I think that's where, going back to your question about Aircon and Dragon Meat, have both grown significantly in the last few years, because they've engaged with a lot of that as well.
Being more inclusive.
Yeah. So they've gone with the thing about how can we make this appeal to a more mainstream audience? How can we have more going on than just hardcore board gamers playing games? Yeah. Aircon has done quite a lot of heavy emphasis on the open gaming. Has always been that way, but has tried to, has a family zone like we do with Imagination Gaming running it as well. And I think that's it's been a very successful growth the last year or two with Aircon, and that's encouraging. So hopefully that'll continue to grow. Dragon Meat in London is only one day show, but it's also grown significantly and now has a lot of this sort of thing going on there as well.
So what do you attribute that surge in interest in these sorts of events to? I mean, there's a lot of talk at the moment in the press about a board gaming boom.
There's very much a board gaming boom. I mean, we were talking to Asmodee UK as Devium, who as they used to be, who are now part of the Asmodee conglomeration of companies, but Asmodee UK and their main distributors in the UK now, Games, and they see the industry has been growing about 30% a year for a decade. It's been really hefty growth, which mirrors pretty much what we would say, in terms of our attendance.
That rings true.
So I think there's several factors. I mean, first of all, I think there is a lot, as gaming starting to make its way to the mainstream. So you see Catan being played on the Big Bang Theory. You see Carcassonne, Catan, lots of other games put as the earth and things in Waterstones, being on sale in Waterstones.
Yeah, that's true.
You've got board game cafes opening all around the country. You know, there's Thirsty Meeples, of course, in Oxford. It's the first one, but there is several. There's 2 or 3 now in Nottingham. There's a couple in Birmingham, and other cities are all have now having these game cafes. So people are going into these game cafes. In Preston, you know, one of our seminar managers, she runs her event at Dice and Donuts in Preston. You know, so people are going to these varying sizes of cafes, seeing. Having for their coffee and then seeing all these games on the shelves.
Yeah.
And thinking, what's this then? And those places are packed. You know, they're going on an average weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and every table's taken up. Mm-hmm. So that means that people are seeing it, accessing it in the mainstream. So it isn't just something. I went to university in the 80s, so I finished in the 1990s. So in the 1980s, in the 80s, it was still. Basically, you went to Games Workshop when it was the original Games Workshop,
sure.
Sort of before it really sort of transformed across to some more figure-orientated. Although now it's doing lots more different things, role-playing and other things. More games starting to come into its range. But those days, you went to Games Workshop to buy your board games. In some back street in Manchester I was at the university, and pretty much nobody knew these things really existed apart from very obscure things. And so those days, and then you look at so you got these things, and then the games almost certainly had lots of little cardboard counters, die-cut cardboard counters and hexagonal maps and things like that for the war games, and relatively obscure looking, quite complex rules. So not easily accessible. Nowadays, the quality of the games has come on immensely. So you only have to look at some of the amazing sorts of games with the 3D models and figures in, and the artwork. It leaps leaps forward from where it was 20, 30 years ago.
Absolutely.
So that makes a difference. So there's and I think finally there's the social aspect. I think everyone plays computer games and things, or on tablets, or on the TV, or whatever it might be on a console. And although you can play those between friends online and things, the great thing about tabletop games is you're around the same table with people. And that sort of half the time when we play a game, we'll say, what do you fancy playing? And quite a lot of the time people aren't that bothered about what they're playing, but it's who they're playing it with.
It's a great point, because although with video games, you can have your headset, you can talk to people and all that it's very rare to get meaningful interaction.
No, that's right.
There.
It's mainly about the game and about the thing. And whilst you can certainly play lots of board games where you're focused very much on the game and the conversation about that, the fun of those sorts of games is the interaction that happens. Sometimes coming out of the game, if somebody, somebody does something to somebody else in the game. It depends. Not everyone likes what you might call gotcha type mechanics, but if you're in that type of game and you're reasonably open to the concept of a bit of shenanigans going on and things, then that is the fun of it, isn't it? And sometimes even if you're really serious about a heavyweight euro, there can still be amusing combinations of things that come out of it. But generally, it's that social interaction which which I think is certainly more pronounced in a tabletop game than you could ever really get in a computer game.
Absolutely.
Maybe virtual reality worlds in the future or something. Who knows? But for the moment, I think the tabletop gaming delivers that in space. Whether that be a board game or a role-playing game, it's the interaction of the role-playing game and collectively generating a storyline that drives things forward, which is partially in the GM's head but partially in the player's head. And a really good. I prefer GMing rather than playing role-playing games, given the choice. But I always like just to throw a situation, practically an almost impossible to solve situation at people, and then just seeing what they come up with. And I don't really, I don't. The fun of it is finding out how they're going to solve this problem. I've got 3 or 4 ideas how they could work it out.
I read an interview with Matt Mercer from Critical Role in the Tabletop Gaming magazine, and he was talking about his process that he goes through when he's creating these scenarios.
Yes.
And he was talking about how he had this sort of Gollum-esque character that he developed all of this backstory for, and he was going to be a guide for the players. And then one of the players came in, and as soon as he saw him, killed him.
No, yes. No, yes. You could. The situation could go completely. I remember we played a game of Traveller once. So I was running this game of Traveller, and I had the whole, systems all mapped out in the immediate area the players were in. And then they went to misjumped, and we were playing a particular version of it where you could pay sort of, bennies or something like that in order to get a re-roll, but of course they insisted they didn't want to do this, and we just had to wing it, and so they ended up in a totally different system. And you just got to go with the flow of that situation. They sort of, and I think that interaction between the players, the GMs in a role-playing game, between the players in a board game, even a war game, it can be sort of just crazy situations can come out of that. They can just be fun, which just don't really quite get to the same extent with a computer game. Not just in computer gaming, it's I play plenty myself, but I think that's the uniqueness of tabletop gaming, which has. So I think all that combination is why there's been this great surge of interest in it. I think hopefully that'll continue for the time being.
I hope so, and I don't foresee it halting anytime soon. But one of the things that I've observed about yourself is that you do make a point of going to as many conventions and gaming events throughout the UK as you can. And as someone who organises an event as big and prestigious as UK Games Expo, you might think as an observer, does someone like Richard really need to be doing that? Do you see it as important that you go to a lot of these events?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's several reasons why we do it. Obviously, from purely the publisher side of things, this is one opportunity I have to be able to show where I'm not running the thing. When I'm at Essen, I have wall-to-wall meetings for 4 days with exhibitors who want to come to the expo. So I think I played 1 game at Essen last year. On a Saturday evening, we had a game with Azul, and that was about the game. And by then I was half asleep through most of it. At Essen Expo, it's the same. Very rarely get a chance to do much in the way of playing a game. We usually try and insist that we get something, even if it's 30 minutes at some point, just so we play the game our own show. But I used to we got to the point of being so busy at those that it's quite nice when I come to this and I mainly just run a stand, as it were, Econ or here or Dragonmeet or someplace like that, Glasgow Games Festival, where you can just run some demos and just enjoy that. Like, after all, that's what you're in the business for, to do the games. So there is that opportunity. I think it's good as a convention organiser to actually be an exhibitor at some conventions to see how it feels to be on the other side of the coin. Because you
expand your understanding.
Well, yeah,
of
because
it,
you're running a convention. If you're not actually ever exhibited at a show, you don't really know what it's like to be an exhibitor. You just be this is how you. So actually, just seeing it from the other side of the coin. Where do I park? How do I get in? How do I get my tickets from? And all the rest of it. I think is useful experience. To have, and whether it be whether it's a small show or a big one, it's all useful stuff. So there's that. I think as well as that, it helps. So there's the element of supporting other events as well. Both, whenever we go to these events, I'll normally put something out on social media to say I'll be at this event and things. Not particularly because I'm expecting anyone particularly wants to come and see me, but because it may well be that people haven't heard of a particular event, didn't realise this was on. Not all events are necessarily quite as proactive in terms of the social media promoting of the events. There's one criticism I have lots of little events is they often say, well, how do you manage to grow the event? And I say you just tell everyone about it repeatedly, continuously, until people get the message. It's not exactly rocket science. You just have to be active, but and one of the ways that we can be active through the year when we haven't got anything much to say about ourselves is by talking about these other events. And that helps them. And in the background, it also helps us, of course, because we're there talking.
It's cross promotion.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I think that's vital. And I think there's lots of overlap as well. The exhibitors that are here, all of them, pretty much I think have been to the expo. It's an opportunity to have a quick chat with people that we don't get the chance to see at Tesla Expo very well because everyone's busy.
So it's a sort of boots on the ground approach for yourself almost then.
So there's all sorts of reasons. So then there's still things like come to Conpulsion, for example. I did a panel here last year here on game design or something. And at one point somebody said, "Oh, the expo, there's no that's the event that doesn't have any role playing, isn't it?" And I said, "Well, we've got the biggest role playing schedule of any convention in the UK. Probably any convention outside of America. Probably, we 450 or something role playing games will be played over the thing. Plus, there's pretty much every UK publisher and international, a large number of international publishers. Paizo were there, at the show. So, Cubicle 7, Chronicle. There's a number of other role-playing publishers, Chaosium. So I think sometimes coming to the little events is a good way. Equally, I go to Glasgow Games Festival and they say, "Oh, that's the event. No, you're mainly role-playing, aren't you? You don't have much board games." So it's like, no, we've got quite a few of them as well. And I think there is sometimes that it's amazing how you can be running for 12 years or whatever it is, and still people, even in the same city the event runs at in Birmingham, haven't heard of you. I went to an event in Bromsgrove called the Great Indoors, which is one of the little local events. Only gets a couple of hundred people, but mainly open gaming and things. But I was there, and there was someone playing Great Fire, I think it was, and they're from Warsaw, just miles away only from the NEC. And they said, "Oh, I've never heard of the UK Games Expo." And you think, what do we have to actually do to to get to the people who've heard of you? So I think there's, I think it just goes to show that for any of these events, there's a lot of people out there who might want to come and play the games that are your sort of an event and do the open gaming and the tournaments and all the rest of the event stuff that goes on, who maybe still haven't heard of you. People are very parochial quite often, so it is quite good to sort of say, well, get on a train and come to something, because if you've not been to the UK Games Expo, the scale of it sometimes blows people away. But Beasts of War, who are official media sponsors of the expo, live streaming this year, they'd heard about us, came for the first time last year, and walked in and basically fainted because they so I didn't realise it was quite as big as this. I think they just hadn't quite conceived what in that case 14,000 square metres of trade hall looks like. In our case this year it's we've got 2 halls of 25,000 in all. So I think 300 exhibitors, and all the conceivable games you can think about. Someone emailed me the other day and said, "Can you give me a list of all the games that will be playable at the expo?" And I said, "See Board Game Geek, go there, work your way down all the list. Pretty much anyone on that list, there's a good chance someone will have it on sale. Maybe a demo. There'll probably be a copy in the library. If you want to play it, there's a good chance you can find it to play." So I think the scale of it sometimes. Even staggers us as we walk in there.
It does.
Usually when people haven't been before, they're used to maybe little events with 200 or 300 people and a few of the publishers. And then they walk in the door and they see that I don't know, Fantasy Flight game stand is 300 square metres of space. The first year of the expo we did the whole show in 850 square metres of space. We're probably going to be using 30,000 square metres this year. The size of it is just enormous. And I think that means that sometimes people are a bit afraid of the size of the expo. They think, "Oh, it's too big." I think, well, you don't have to necessarily. If you find it busy on the Saturday, there are lots of other opportunities to do things. So if you are thinking, oh, it's just way too busy on a peak time on a Saturday to be walking around the trade halls, well, you've got things you can be doing. The open gaming space, we'll have 2,500 seats in open gaming space peak time on a Saturday. So you can go and sit in there and play some games. You can borrow from the board game library. There are seminars, being run by lots of people, including the Dice Tower, and Shut Up and Sit Down, the Ian Livingstone, founding father of the hobby games industry. There's lots of those where you can go and hear people who do designers talk about things. There are the publishing designer track seminars and workshops. So if you want to find out about Kickstarter and how to make prototypes and how to market games and how to play test them and all the rest of it, then you can go and find a seat in one of those places. There's tournaments, of course, so you can go and play Catan tournament, Carcassonne tournament, or Agricola.
I think Josh and myself are planning to enter the Shadespire tournament.
All right, yeah.
That's going to be there.
That's going to be there, and those events usually get to quite sizable. But then you've got live entertainment tracks that we do, which are sort of a combination of comedy events meet gaming events, really. So there are the Dark Room, which is run by John Robertson, who's an insane Australian bloke, basically, anyway, describing him. And he runs a game based on the adventure games of the 1980s. You wait to find yourself in a dark room, what do you do?
Sure, yeah.
I go north, and how do you know which way north is, and so on. And he does it live, so he literally, in a room, it's all darkened, and all you can see is his head floating around, illuminated. And behind him on the screen, there is a sort of mock-up of a computer console type thing. And you've got your choices on there. So, switch on light. Well, where is the light switch? How do you know where the light switch is? Okay, well, I'll feel the wall. Oh, the wall likes it, and so on. And so it's that interaction between the person who's and someone in the audience gets picked on to be the choices, and inevitably they die, and someone else gets to go, and so on. So the things like the Dark Room, and we've got live role-playing games where maybe there's a panel of guests, celebrity guests playing the game, and the audience is choosing the monsters and the environment. I came up here to the Fringe in August. One of those sort of tough jobs that someone has to do at things. You come up here and wander around the Fringe and go and see some of the live gaming shows. That's where we picked the Dark Room, where we picked up the Jolly Boat, which is a pirate. What is it called? The UK's first pirate song duo or something. They're basically a pair of brothers who do mainly pirate-related songs, but they also got lots of geek songs. Okay. So I think at the Expo they'll be doing more their geek culture songs. Yeah. So Star Wars, Harry Potter, all the rest of it. Assume you'll get references to. And they're just good fun. It's a bit of an hour's, and they're just like funny comedy songs. They're just really, really funny. So there's lots of those things, which show if it's really busy, well, pop into one of those events for an hour. And we've got a lot of rooms. There's a lot of space. There's a lot of different areas of the show. You go outdoors and watch the Vikings beat each other up, for half an hour. So there's plenty to do to mean that you have more to do than you can possibly.
There will inevitably something that everyone will enjoy.
Yeah.
So, going back to Medusa Games, you are just about ready to launch a new game, is that right?
Hopefully so, yeah. So we're at that stage. You always get to a point with the game of thinking, right, are we going to go ahead with this? And is this, what's the time scale? When's our decision day, as it were? Which would come in some point in June, which is conveniently after the Expo, so I can get that out of the way before my brain works again. So then I can think about it. But what we're working on is Magnificent Flying Machines, which is inspired by the great air races of around 1910, 1911, which in turn inspired Magnificent Men, the Flying Machines movie. Although both the movie and our game are originally inspired by these air races. So we haven't called it those Magnificent Men and the Flying Machines because we don't want to get sued by whoever the copyright owners are. And it's based on the original air races. So the idea is it's the air races of 1910 in which the the 32 planes would take off to race around Britain, for example. 4 of them would get round. There was lots of bonuses along the way for if you were the first plane to land in, say, Manchester, or the first person to carry a passenger or carry cargo to a place. So we've got lots of that in there as well. So the general idea is you'll be choosing a flying machine of 6 different sorts and 18 pilots, 24 bits of equipment, and you sort of put all that lot together into a flying machine.
Unlucky Frog, we were fortunate enough to play a prototype of the game at Glasgow Games Festival, and you can almost approach the game one of 2 ways. You can go after objectives, or you can ruin your friend's day.
Yes, pretty much. So you can just play it fairly straight. My wife, when she plays it, very much goes for the straight-laced approach. She doesn't like playing much of the way dirty tricks or any shenanigans. So she'll play it straightforward. She's trying to get down the track. She's trying to do all these landings, pick up cargoes, drop things off, and there we go. And there's enough inherent potential for failure in the game anyway, because it's dice mechanics. Any dice game has luck's going to go against you at times. So there's many ways of mitigating that. But ultimately, you've got to find your way through the game by getting around the luck in the elements in a variety of ways. Other people will play a game quite happy to essentially just scupper everybody else.
That was us. I think we had Callum and Josh. So Callum was right behind Josh, and they were approaching the finish line. And Callum decided to throw a brick at Josh. So the way that we kind of envisioned this was that Callum had a brick tied to a string and was going to swing it round and lobbed it at him.
So you can throw bricks at people. Sometimes there is a shotgun in the game. There's a rifle you can use. There are a number of dirty tricks. So sugar in the tank, which makes it difficult for them to fly. Saw through the wing, which and a variety of things. You can if you think about the sorts of those, I suppose those tropes of sort of the Dick Dastardly type characters, and the Terry Thomas, and all this sort of stuff. That there's that bits in it, and you don't have to play it that way. Some people don't like gotcha type games and having a go at other people. They want to just play their game, So which I think, to be honest, the Medusa games probably aren't the best ones for them, because I think most of my games have some element of dirty tricks. Great fire, you're burning down people's houses. In 9 worlds, at some point or other, you're going to completely muck up someone's plans. So, and I think, to be honest with you, I think those are just the sorts of games my group do like to play. There's nothing wrong with having lots of strategy and lots of certainly quite a bit of strategy in any of those games where you can come up with a plan and stuff. But I must admit, I'm never terribly keen on games where it seems to be almost a matter of 4 of us playing a solo game, and it's how clever am I at playing my solo game compared to how clever you are.
I really struggled with the Marvel deck building game Legendary for that reason, because it did feel that I spent half the game watching Josh draw cards. And you've got things that you can each pick from the middle, but that is pretty much the extent of the interaction.
I think that those games in which you are entirely almost insulated from the other people, I don't particularly like that. I don't think you should necessarily have we've put a fair number of elements in to mitigate that. So if you really just have a terrible turn bad luck wise, you can luck tokens, gives you an automatic attack, pass other tests later in the game, you have spare parts, you have all sorts of things that you can spend and burn to get over the thing. You're using resources as you go along, and eventually get to a point where you've got nothing left and you've either got to land and pick something up or whatever it might be. But the point is, this is a game based on air races in which only 4 of 32 planes got round the course. So it's not going to be just easy all the time, and that's what we don't want it to be. We want it. There's certain times when you're a lightning storm over a mountain, and the odds of getting through are not hard. So what do? Do you hang about hoping the weather will change? Do you climb the altitude to get the advantage of flying over the weather? Do you land and pick up some more spare parts so you can you just take the chance and bulldozer through, and I hope that you'll be lucky. So and I don't really make much apology for those sorts of elements, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think there's some people like that. Some people,
I love them.
Yeah,
I love it. Any opportunity to ruin a friend's day.
yes, it's always good. It's always good.
So we can expect to see magnificent flying machines around summertime.
Well, what we're probably going to be doing, assuming it sort of assuming we feel that it's there and it goes okay here at Conpulsion, and also, which is the last show before Expo for us, and then obviously at the Expo, we'll probably we very well take. Chances are we'll probably plan to take pre-orders at the Expo. We don't tend to Kickstarter ourselves. There's nothing wrong with Kickstarter. Very successful way of funding games. But to do a proper Kickstarter campaign is a lot of work, a lot of effort, and we're running the Expo as well as we do to games. I just don't have the time to give a proper Kickstarter campaign sort of justice.
I've heard quite a few designers say that certainly for that first week of a Kickstarter, you're not going to be sleeping very much.
So I think it's, for me personally, it's something where we try and juggle the finances to see if we can get the funds together to publish it, and hope that we get the sales then to cover it and things. And it's not easy by any means, but it's. I'm not Kickstarter. I tend to go with we'll take pre-orders, and then on the basis we'll then we in the case of Great Fire and in the case of. The previous games, Nine Worlds and the expansion, we then do the idea being that those pre-orders are delivered in advance of Essen. So Essen is where we will be aiming for a release. Probably our deadline for a decision is a week or two after the Expo, but I think the chances are we reach the Expo, we'll be in a stage of being 99% certain that we will go.
So we'll definitely see it this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think unless we look at it and think, we're still not quite happy with something. The artwork is essentially done. We're just waiting for the final few bits and bobs of the artwork. Hoping our German translator can get their German translation done in time. But I think we're 99% certain we'll be having it out in time for us, in October. So we'll. That's with the plan at the moment.
So very briefly before we wrap up, for anyone that's been living under a rock and does not know when UK Games Expo is happening.
First weekend of June, so it's Friday 1st of June to Sunday 3rd of June in the NEC in Birmingham. Lots of information on the website about that, which is www.ukgamesexpo.co.uk. We do have some open gaming happening on the Thursday evening, which is the 31st of May for early arrivals. There'll be some space for that, but the show itself doesn't start properly until the Friday, so don't turn up expecting everything. It starts properly on the Friday, but Friday it's all steam ahead for three days of very frantic at the gaming. So first weekend of June, and if you've never been, come for a day at least. And we have a lot of people that will come and say, I might just pop in for a couple of hours, see what I think, and come back and buy a 3-day ticket.
And it is Birmingham NEC, so it's readily accessible from many parts of the country.
Hotel-wise, a lot of people, something you find people sort of pop up about a week or two before the show and think, I bought my tickets. I don't understand quite why there aren't any hotel rooms available.
Yeah.
And you say, well, that's because there are 16,000 people we had last year coming to the Expo. There are only a certain number of hundred hotel rooms actually on the NEC complex. And by now, they've got, but that doesn't mean you can't have a hotel room. There are many hotel rooms in the centre of Birmingham, in the centre of Coventry, which are 10 or 15 minutes by train. When we go to Essen Spiel or Nuremberg Toy Fair is the same, we stay half an hour away, at the end of a train line sort of thing. These big shows are just like that. Same with the Gen Con, people stay all over the place if you go to Gen Con. So that is just part of the nature of a large convention. But on our website under accommodation, I think on a visitor, there is a link to a place which does allow you to search for hotel rooms, and they've got discounts off market rates and things, so they can give fairly decent. There's even a phone number you can ring them up and say give us a help with this, or email them and they'll help find your rooms. So. Don't try and get a £400 a night room in the Hilton if that's what the rate is up to at the moment. But just stay a stop or two away on the train line. It's not far. Or if you've got a car, there are plenty of places, not far away by car. centre of Solihull's 15 minutes by taxi. So you can stay until midnight or end of the open gaming or whatever you want to, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then go and get a taxi back if you want to. So I understand that people would love to be in the Hilton or the Gentins or one of those close-in hotels, but there are only 500 hotel rooms on that complex.
As the great philosopher Jagger once said, you can't always get what you want.
No, you do.
Well, I think that is all we've got time for just now. Richard, thank you very much for joining us.
Okay.
We'll probably hear from you later on in the year, I imagine.
Okay, yes.
And for all of our listeners, wherever you are, thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you.
Goodbye. We are Unlucky Frog Gaming, and I am Ben. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Unlucky Frog Gaming. You can also show your support by giving us money through the Unlucky Frog Patreon. And be sure to check out our website, unluckyfrog.com, to find out more.